Welcome to this week's Hot and Cold Report, brought to you by Fantasy Baseball Cafe. I'm Jason Gilbo, just running through some hot trade targets, some guys to kind of buy low on that are slumping a little bit here, and some free agent pickups. There's a one hot utility guy that you should target, and another outfield play over in Tampa. But just a couple guys on the rebound here from earlier this season. Jose Bautista hitting 289. With 6 homers in the last 2 weeks, hitting the ball all over the park, and whether it's on the road or at home in the Rogers Center. So he finally looks healthy. He's looking really good. I have some shares of him in a couple of leagues, and I'm glad I didn't sell because his rest of the season rankings are looking really good. Another AL East guy, Manny Machado, 24 runs plus RBIs in the last 2 weeks. He is heating up, looking really good right now. He's hitting lefties pretty well, which hasn't always been his thing, but he has a 370 WOBA off them so far this season, and hitting right-handed pitching as he always has with 369 WOBA. So definitely a solid sign from Machado, providing to be a top 5 fantasy third baseman this season. So definitely a great guy to have on your team, heating up this season. And Jose Reyes, another Blue Jays guy, hitting 333. Shook off the rust there from that rib injury, and hitting with 2 homers, 5 stolen bases in the last 2 weeks is a good sign from him. And with Donaldson Bautista, he's the table setter, and if he gets on, there's a good chance he's coming around to score. As for pitchers, nobody's striking out guys at a crazy rate right now than Chris Sale. 16.2 K through 9 over the last 6 starts. Double-digit Ks in the last 7, in 6 of the last 7, and five starts in a row with double-digit Ks. So he kept it going with 12 strikeouts against the Rays. So a guy who's red hot right now. And Alfredo Simon for the Tigers, he just keeps it going. Sub 2 ERA over the last few starts and a couple wins for the Tigers there. I'm a little worried about him in the second half. He may be a guy to put out there for a trade, just because he had a 4.5 ERA over the last second half of last season, which worries me a little bit. He's a guy of older age, pitching in the AL, definitely tougher than the NL where he was last season. So he could be a guy who keeps that trend going in 2015. So maybe a guy who ship out, see what you can get for him. If not, whatever, you just ride this hot streak as long as you can. He's pitching really well so far. Some cold bats that you might want to wait out or ship off, especially with their names being what they are. Ian Desmond, he looked like he was getting hot, but now he's back down to slump. And he's been that way for a lot of 2015 here so far, hitting below 200 in the last few weeks. He's not on pace for a 2020 season like many predicted, and just not a guy I was really high on from the beginning. People still like him, and they especially like him in keeper leagues, so it's definitely an option to put him out there on the block and see what you can get for him, because Desmond is a hot name and people do like him. So a guy I'm not high on. I'm not high on him for the future, so definitely see what you can get out for him. He's obviously not going to be a guy you drop. Billy Hamilton, this guy's just a tough fantasy guy to evaluate right now, because if you look, 9 stolen bases in the last 2 weeks, hitting just 209, but he's moved down to the 9th spot in the lineup, so runs aren't going to be his thing. He's not getting on base well enough. His batted ball stats are pretty bad. His advanced stats are not in his favor. He's a guy who you can test out the trade waters with, especially in head-to-head leagues, because he's a guy who's going to hurt you in a lot of categories, but will single-handedly win you stolen base matchups each week if he gets on. He had a 5 stolen base game the other night, so definitely a guy who you can hang on to, but I'm trying to see what I can get for him. Another guy who was red hot at the beginning, the first 2 months of the season, who's really slowed down, is Adrian Gonzalez, hitting 208 over the last 2 weeks. But sit tight on him. He's hitting the ball with a 30% line drive rate, and his strikeout rate is not really rising. So still hitting the ball hard. He's gonna heat back up here again, especially out there in LA. Get some day games. The warmer weather turns that ballpark into to a favorable hitter's ballpark. And looking at some pitchers here, too, I'm abandoning ship here on these guys. Andrew Cashner, 6.17 ERA in the last 6 starts. And his last start against Oakland at home was a real deal breaker for me because I targeted him as maybe a possible turning around point. Oakland's offense is not strong. He didn't look good. I mean, he gave up a bad 2-out hit to Scott Kazmir, and it led to Billy Burns burning him. He's really struggled against the left side here. They have a 30% hard ball rate, and just nothing in the works for me that leads to him turning it around. His strikeout rate's average. It's about what you can find on the waiver wire right now for a better ERA. And a guy who's kind of close to him right now is Colin McHugh, who's struggling against right-handed bats instead of left-handed bats. His strikeout rate's 7% lower than what it was last season, and his FIP is up there. It's below average right now. He's a guy who I'm probably gonna. He's got good stuff, but he's a guy who I'm probably gonna hold on to for another start or two. But if he keeps trending the way he is, he's gonna be a guy who gets cut from me. So hot pitchers to believe in right now. Chi Gonzalez. It goes by Alex. It goes by Chi. His name's Alex Gonzalez out of Texas. Real nice start against the Dodgers, and his FIP is a little high, just because his contact rate, is high as well. But he's a guy who's kept the ball, in the yard. His WHIP and ERA is pretty low. Not much coming off the bat hard. Opposing hitters' fly ball rates are a little above average, but he's hitting strides right now for Texas, and he's been a big part of their success. Right-handed bats are hitting 196 off him so far this season. Lefties 250, which is understandable, but not bad. So definitely, if he is out there, because his non-flashy fantasy value, player owners have stayed away. Some offensive waiver wire pickups. I talked about a great utility man at the beginning here. Brock Holt just hit for the cycle the other day. I listed in the AL waiver wire pickups. Everyday man for Boston. I mean, Victorino's hurt. Castillo kind of on and off. Hanley in and out. But he's a guy who showed his value last season. Became an everyday guy, and he's doing it this year. Simply, John Farrell just can't sit him right now. He's going to help out in runs and on-base percentage. He's hitting the ball well. Great batted ball stats. His hitting second. So definitely a guy hitting 362 over the last 2 weeks to keep an eye on. You can play him wherever. So if you do have a guy who's injured right now, give Brock Holt a look, because he could probably definitely fill in anywhere but catcher right now. And Joey Butler for the Rays, another AL East guy, hitting over 300 against lefties and righties. Hitting 365 off lefties. He's really crushing the ball there. And then he has a 32% line drive rate against right-handed pitching this season. He's a guy who's always performed well at the major league level, but just hasn't been proven that opportunity. And now with Desmond Jennings out for a while, he's going to be hitting in the lineup every day. The Rays are up there in the standings, and Joey Butler is hitting in front of Longoria and those guys, and proving a lot of fantasy value right now. Pitcher to buy on, Charlie Morton. Been really surprising this season. Provides a lot of quality starts, a lot of wins. You're not going to find lights out pitching with huge strikeout upside at this time of the year unless there's a call up somewhere. So right now you should be out there looking for some quality starts and streaming some guys. And he has a nice 3.32 FIP, which is pretty decent, and he's keeping runs to a minimum. He obviously gets to pitch in that huge ballpark out there in Pittsburgh, and I like his stuff. Heading to the AL, Jesse Hahn. He's got a sub-3 ERA over the last 6 starts and a 3.55 FIP, in that span. Real nice ground ball percentage. His strikeout rate's a little higher than Morton, which I like. I streamed him this past week because this week he pitched really well against San Diego. But I like him in the long run here out of Oakland. Some high-profile names to target who are just kind of performing average right now. Kyle Seager, Lucas Duda, and Ryan Braun are all hitting for low averages outside of Seager. He's hitting like 286 here this month. But many are quick to ship him off just due to his preseason hype, which he is coming through on. He's having he's on pace for a better year than last year. But, people want results right away. He's got healthy batted ball stats. I'm looking to buy low on Seager if he can. And Ryan Braun is another guy. I've noticed around the Fantasy Baseball Cafe forums that he's been the odd man out of their outfield this year just because he's not performing for a high average. But, the guy has a hard ball rate over 40% this season, so he's really crushing the ball. So I think the average is going to sure itself up, but the power is going to be continuous as he's seen so far. And Duda's a guy who's kind of hot and cold. He kind of reminds me of Evan Longoria, where he gets just on an absolute tear for a couple weeks, which he has shown a couple multi-hit games over the last week here. So he could be on that trend. He was leading the league in doubles at one point earlier this season, hitting the ball well off left-handed pitching. So definitely a guy to target there if you can. Nice util guy or first baseman spot I have no problem with. So those three are going to wrap us up here at the Hot and Cold Report. Check back tomorrow. I'll bring some trade talk from our forums.